All right, folks, in audio land, as usual, we'll be there momentarily. All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Foxtrotting in the Foxhole, Season 11, Episode 3, number 323 overall. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan, coming to you on a sweet Saturday morning. Watching the Open, lots of drama there. We'll get to that. As usual, we thank the usual suspects, the Sonys, the Rode, all the cable makers, the light makers, Godox, Newer, for providing the wonderful tools for content creators like myself. And that's not me getting paid to do this. This is just me saying, yeah, it makes my life a lot easier. Thanks for putting up with us. As you know, we're always under construction. That's why the construction sign is up there in the back. Probably you've seen that in recent episodes. Apologize for some of the technical oddities there. We're trying to build out a new platform, and we've been doing that over the course of the last 2 months or so, maybe a little bit longer. We're getting there. By the time football season comes around, I think we'll be swinging for the fences. Neither here neither there. All right, enough babbling. Let's get to episode 323. Time for some open face. Where are we going first? Man. Is it content before everything, or is everybody in the media versus the people they cover just really thin skinned? And the latest round of this nonsense, KD calling out Colin Cowherd and Nick Wright. And I'm sitting there, and Nick Wright, I like Nick Wright. I know he gets on certain people's nerves, but I do think that, he's a little compassionate guy and has some empathy, and not everything's content before everything. We know KD's just a freak, and burner phones and being the king of being thin-skinned, and comes to Cowherd. I would stop watching him. His comment on Sorsby being okay with it. I haven't watched him since, holding to my word. If what's his buddy is sitting in, I might tune in for a few minutes. But yeah, I get it. But it's like, KD, are you just doing it for clicks? You're probably in the top 30 as far as NBA greats is concerned. Made lots of money. Why is it that you got to get in beefs with people? I try to cut you some slack because you're a lifetime Commanders fan. But you can be very unlikable. And this is one of those things to where, okay, it's one thing the beef with Stephen A. Smith. Because Stephen A. Smith, as people like the Korean Cosell Steve Kim have pointed out, goes around acting like a mafia boss. Yeah, you better do this. Or you better not use my name in your mouth. But when it comes to Colin and Nick Wright, obviously, jump into a 73 win team that just knocked you out, you're always going to get slings and arrows for that. Or that you didn't win in Brooklyn, or Houston, or Phoenix. But still, you're going to be considered in the top 30. I don't know exactly where. It doesn't really matter right now. But stop being so thin-skinned. Especially when it comes to guys like Colin and Nick Wright. Faults or not, they're not bullying. Can't they have an opinion? Like I can have an opinion without someone like you getting so thin-skinned. And just maybe you're just effing with everybody. I don't know. All right. Then we've got this Matt Miller story. It's just getting murkier by the minute, isn't it? Pretty much ESPN trying to defend the guy, but distancing themselves at the same time. Folks, got folks looking into the GoFundMe. I mean, this guy lost his arm. But as I've pointed out to you in the previous platforms, he was involved in some very shady stuff. Very shady. In fact, it's about as shady as it gets. When you start going down the Art Schleicher Boulevard of Scumville, yeah, that's what this guy was doing. And how as horrific as the accident that he suffered, it's weird. Because you have folks really pushing back now that they know this guy really wasn't that good. ESPN may have known about some of this shadiness and didn't do anything about it. Just saying. Not all bad for ESPN. The most, obviously during the All-Star, the baseball All-Star interlude is when they have the ESPYs. Kind of like a great signifier that we've reached the midway point of any calendar athletic year. I can't watch the ESPYs because ESPN and its weird, cringy, woke, whatever. Yeah, it's too much. It's too much for the sports fan to ingest. That's okay if it works for you. But I did like some of the clips I saw, like Jim Abbott coming out and getting the Jimmy V Perseverance Award. Good to see Jim Abbott and all the good things that he's doing. So ESPN can have a good moment, even with all of its cringiness, where we can all feel good about ourselves. And you have like Pat Tillman's wife on there as well. So sometimes it just gets a little over the top. We know it's all COE. Speaking of ESPN, I think it's interesting what we found out via Awful Announcing and some other platforms this week. Dan Patrick, your take on the WNBA and Kathy Engelbert shining you on, and now this about you still bitter at ESPN for elevating Mike Trico to be the face of the golf platform instead of you. Man, that's probably more traction than you've got in a decade. Am I lying? I'm just saying. Boy, content before everything, right? Man. Speaking of, man, this Nolan Wells thing, I don't know if you've been paying attention to it or not, but it became, Ben Crump and Al Sharpton and all the race baiters and hustlers' latest crusade. Tragic story. We don't know what happened, but we sure know that folks are running faster than Carl Lewis. Right, or that kid that just ran 19.7 to win, the Prefontaine a few weeks ago classic up here in Eugene to get their little content on. It's bad. It's like this kid lost his life. And even the guy's mom's up there, hi, Booze. I know I'm going to make some more content for you. I'm like, shouldn't you be focusing your energy on finding your son? And finding out what happened to your son, I mean to say. As opposed to you kind of getting a taste of this and that Fred Goldman thing. Like, oh, I like being in the camera. Now I'm the star. And all of a sudden, my grief is more a story that leads into GoFundMes. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be too harsh here because this is a very tragic story with the kid somehow ending up dead. But of course, these stupid narratives. I mean, people like the nuclear physicist Jasmine Crockett, out there saying if you're black, you should never be alone with white people. Gee whiz, I don't know. And anything could happen to me in this lifetime, but good grief, I can remember being in some pretty hardcore scenes with people who weren't necessarily liberal and coming back unscathed and never even thinking that I should be in fear. So, you hustlers and baiters, stop it. You're just out there trying to build your brand, trying to get the clicks and monetize. You people out there falling for that BS, support folks like myself where you get real troops. Okay, I'm just gonna walk away from that one. Jeez. Well, maybe not. Did you see T.O.? Yeah, that Terrell Owens asking President Trump to get involved. Wow. Yes, it is Mississippi, and Mississippi has a tawdry pass. But that is what the law enforcement and other agencies are for. Trump's got a war, an economy, and a bunch of other things he needs to deal with as opposed to intervening in this particular case. When it seems like the folks on the ground are trying to get the answers everyone wants to make sure no chicanery did go on. Come on, T.O. But then again, when was the last time T.O. was relevant? Hey, let's hop on the baiters and hustlers crusade so I can build my brand. Because otherwise, when was the last time you heard it from Hall of Famer Terrell Owens? Uh-oh, I know I'm all spicy. Okay. Yeah, I know. Everybody trying to get their minute of relevance. It's just so darn shameless. You know, I was talking to somebody about the whole jumping the shark concept, from Happy Days. I'm like, how about when the shark leaves the tank? And I think that's what we're getting with the Savannah Bananas, where the shark's just like, let me hop out of the tank and find some open water in GFOH. I saw in my marketplace somebody selling a Savannah Bananas jersey that they picked up here recently, obviously when they came through Eugene. And it's like, what was it, $175 for a Bananas jersey, $75 for a Crew t-shirt. And speaking of the SBs, pardon me, they opened the SBs, and apparently it was so cringy that even people that like the Bananas have said, yeah, it's time to pull, from Warner Brothers cartoons, that long cane and yank their butts off the stage. I am very glad that we are starting to see Bananas fatigue. I think it is a good thing. They've had their moment. They're going to continue to get paid and probably travel the country, but no way should they be getting this kind of traction. And that people are starting to call it out. It's just a matter of time. Because once the peanut gallery turns on you, everybody follows suit. Do they not? Man. Oh, God. Okay, let's do a little pop culture here. Since we're just having fun here, open face. Even though I'm supposed to be blasting through this is a casual Saturday. Watching the open out of the corner of my eye. Chilling here in Studio B. Man, I've been watching some good documentaries lately. This one guy, he's got this animated series out where he's kind of going through all the rap tragedies over the last 4 decades. Good stuff. Anyhow, that just led me to this thing I saw. I think it was yesterday. R. Kelly. Yeah, that R. Kelly. Apparently, reaching for the candy bar or using, whatever's left of his assets to keep upright in the gray bar. He's had enough. And so apparently he is appealing to, once again, President Trump. Somebody else asking President Trump to intervene. If the guy is such a racist and hate blacks, baiters and hustlers, why do we have R. Kelly and Terrell Owens reaching out to him? I'm kidding, because, I don't care either way. I'm independent and the right, left, and probably the middle too at this point. So, but we're having a giggle and like going, R. Kelly writing Trump, like, come on, bros, give me my sentence. I'm tired of this. I want to get back up there and do my thing. Man. And we've got Mick Jagger. They just dropped an album. I need to listen to it. Everybody says it's their best album in 48 years. I'll let my peeps who actually know a thing or two be the judge of that one, but I am kind of curious to give it a serious listen. Just haven't had time to do it with all the content that's popping out there. And we'll get to that as this episode moves along. Hey, calling out the boss, Bruce Springsteen. Basically saying, man, I'm just me, dude. Stop, being on your high horse. Get away from the pulpit. Just because you sing and play the guitar doesn't mean people need to take your message serious and something to live by. I mean, he didn't quite say it that way, but I guess the sense I got from Jags. That Jags is just basically like saying, yo, folks, stop taking yourself so seriously. Good for you, Sir Mick. Daylight savings about to become a permanent thing. Never really mattered that much to me. This whole, I'm tired of losing that hour and complaining for that week or so. Whatevs. If it makes everybody happy, I'm on board with it. It seems to work in Arizona where they don't they don't move their clocks back and up. So, cool. If that's the way it's going to be, not losing any sleep over that. Kind of a bummer to hear Sully, because remember I used to always say Sully got paid. It was Sully who pulled off the miracle in the Hudson. We find out this week he's got Alzheimer's. Hopefully, the plane, no pun intended, but it's easy way out to the bridge as far as that goes. Good man there. Decent flick. Another interesting thing that came out this week. So I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. We've been talking about the whole Paramount and Warner Brothers merger and what that's going to mean, not only from an entertainment perspective, but also all the sports broadcasting and the leagues and competitions and stuff that they're all plugged into and what that means. In California and 11 other states are making the move right now to block this merger. Interesting. And I was happy that Netflix, more on that down as this episode moves along, didn't acquire Warner Brothers for various reasons. And now everybody else is saying, oh, not so fast as far as creating a monopoly like this and making our lives probably even more hell in terms of nickel and diming us to death with endless streaming options. Wow. Obviously, we're at midsummer. Everybody's getting their traveling on. Everybody's getting their hustle on. We ain't talking about the baiters and hustlers. That's a whole different category. We're just talking about people getting an honest hustle on. Or maybe not so much. Apparently, at PDX, we had a traveler heading from Oregon to New Jersey, I believe. It might be legal, but where did you think you were going to get away with 50 pounds of the devil's lettuce in your luggage? Now, I'm sure they were really lusting for that Oregon kind. Probably the stuff the grown men and women, if you know what I mean. Wow. You really thought you were going to get away with that in TSA. Crazy. Going to Jersey. Man, I'm guessing, if Christopher was still alive, he wouldn't be happy right now. Or Adriana, for that matter. Lastly, before we really get into the heart of this episode and start talking sports again, apparently, in these wild times, there's been a lot of, what do we want to call, institutions, I like to think of, that have taken hits in the 2020s that are no longer with us, or are not quite the institutions that we grew up with. And apparently 7-Eleven, which has been it's been granted in many communities for good Lord. As far as when I was going back to short pants back in the 70s, things are not so rosy. And apparently they were going to go through a big restructuring next year and actually start shutting down stores that they feel are not profitable. Imagine that. When is a 7-Eleven ever going to be hurting? But apparently, in this economy, they say, hold my delivery truck, hold my keg. Stay tuned as far as that goes, especially if it's one where you get your nicotine, lighters, energy drinks, and occasional adult beverages because they're open that late. What is it, 2:30 here in Oregon? Okay, folks, enough giggling. When we come back, we'll go pitch side and we'll start talking about the beautiful game life and kind of wrapping up the World Cup and what we can look forward to with the MLS and the transfer windows now doing business. See you momentarily. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Yeah, interesting stuff going on at Royal Birkdale. We'll get to that momentarily. In the meanwhile, obviously, as we've been talking about now for the past 5 weeks, the beautiful game life is at center stage as far as sports go. Even if you don't like those guys in booty shorts, it is still front and center, the belle of the ball. And it's really lived up to it. I know there were folks that had some apprehensions going into this tournament, it being expanded, and we would get more mediocrity. It's not really been that. It's been very compelling, as I talked about in Aftershocks 53 the other day. Please check that out if you haven't. Or if not, be sure to watch the next one. We try not to be too redundant. Yeah. For a lot of stuff, now that we are entering, basically the last lap with the third place game today. I mean, England and France playing in a third place game. Yeah, that tells you how stellar this tournament is going to be. And obviously, this Argentina-Spain matchup has all the makings of a match for the ages. Does it not? Unfortunately, there's been some tragedy. I talked about it. The whole thing happening at the Fan Fest out in Mexico. And then you have this kid from South Africa who we just saw on the pitch playing in this competition. The kid's name, I think, is Jaden Adams. South Africa, passed away at 25. Basically just getting back from the World Cup and he's already crossed the bridge. Terrible story. Definitely our condolences go out to his people. For sure. You were far too young, especially after being able to play in a World Cup for your country, the pinnacle of life, and then next thing you're gone. Okay. Another big question. As the dust is settling, in reality, there's going to be all kinds of weird conversations because I just heard yesterday that the USSF, the United States Soccer Federation, is going to do an overhaul and sort of reverse the pay-to-play model and rebuild our structure from the ground up to make it more accessible. That's going to be a nuanced conversation as we move forward, as we've been talking about since I started this podcast 6 years ago. A lot to be said about that. But in the here and now, the question is, at the top of the pyramid, Do we keep Poch? Do we keep Mauricio Pochettino? And the answer to me, if I were in charge, I would say definitely. It's not time to have a knee-jerk reaction because Belgium undressed us on the big stage. If you've been watching the top flight clubs on the country level, we're just not there. We are hitting above our weight class. I do believe under Poch, we're starting to build a culture. And if he's willing to sit through another cycle like Thomas Tuchel is going to do in England after their heartbreaking loss, it will be good for continuity, and we can really start to see how we build a pathway to where we can feel comfortable saying we have a chance when we get into the biggest competitions. Okay? Mexico and Canada got bounced at the same level too. And Canada's not running away from Jesse Marsh. And I believe if Pochettino wants to stay here, he should be given the chance to continue to build this program. This isn't going to be an overnight thing where, wow, we got a big-time European manager. And in 1 or 2 cycles, we're going to be among the top 5 or 6 nations in the world. As homie says, in fear of a black hat, it ain't that kind of party. Patience. Patience, grasshopper. Talked about this in Aftershocks. Still people percolating over the next World Cup, maybe having 64 teams. Probably having 64 teams. Because if you can make $1.01, why not make 5? Not saying it's right, but I am a realist. And in the trajectory where it is profit before everything, of course this is going to happen. Maybe they go 48-64. You know what I mean? Who knows? Maybe it's 96. Man. Okay. A lot of drama last weekend, huh? Since we last talked. I mean, you get England knocking out Mr. Haaland. Mr. Haaland running out of steam. Tears. A beaten man. Of course, all the ladies like, yeah, but that body, man. And all the dudes like, I wish I had that body. I'd have a harem. I ain't lying. This is the comments I've been hearing all week. I went to a million watch parties. Oh, we're having fun over here. Argentina knocking out Switzerland. I mentioned that. It was fun while it lasted. But, Argentina just doing what it does. I mean, then we get to the real fun. As we talked about the other day, Spain knocking out France. Now, Didier Deschamps out, Mr. Zidane in. And the thing is, I've said before, now at least a lot of these guys do have a World Cup on their resume. So that's why I don't think they're crying in their beers. They're probably pissy because if this is another messy moment when it should have been theirs, you know what? Give Spain their flowers. I mean, I thought they could win this going into the tournament, but I thought Portugal could win it as well. Spain rising to the occasion, just being impenetrable. And yeah, not folding under pressure. This is why tomorrow's matchup is going to be crazy. I mean, obviously England, let's get to them real quick. Lots of scenes there. Some people angry, more people showing the typical resignation. It's all good there. Like I said a second ago, Tuchel's going to remain at least through the 28 Euros. We get that. That's why I'm a strong advocate of the USA maintaining the same continuity. No knee-jerk reactions. Continue the build. Especially in England's case. I mean, and it's Argentina where, people don't feel the squad was as good as the one that won or the one in the previous World Cup, which would have that been 18. However, they're gritty. Never say die. And if you're ahead after 70, 75 minutes, as Harvey Keitel says in Pulp Fiction, if you know the line, don't start doing that yet. Because this team will find a way to steal your heart. Rip it right out. Put some soy sauce, a little cayenne, and serve it up on a platter. The cool thing too, since this is not a soccer nation, well, even without the U.S., Canada, or Eltray going deep in the knockout stages, viewership is ridiculous. They're putting up great numbers, which is really cool to see that in spite of you naysayers out there in the various peanut galleries that have been utterly miserable, nobody cares about soccer or football proper. We know they cook the books, so it's hard to believe, but I just know going to watch parties all through town and just the vibe I get, people are dialed in. And they would have been regardless of the United States men's national team having a puncher's chance to do something in this particular tournament beyond getting this little, hey, we made it to the yeah. FIBA still torn over the future of hydration breaks. We get it, You know my stance on that. Ain't the end of the world either way to me. Okay? If you're a purist, I get it. You're going to complain. And if it's not that, you're going to be complaining about something else. Because that's what y'all do. Am I lying? MLS resumes. We had a triple header the first night, double header last night. Rivalries, which is really good. Could have done a better job of hyping it, but it's the MLS, Mr. Garber, who had his little watch party last night. Man, Timbers gutting the fish. That's beating the you-know-what out of the Sounders. Strong return there, going up to their crib and doing it. The Missouri Derby, St. Louis City holding off a hopefully re-energized SKC, Sporting Kansas City, new ownership and all that good stuff there. Last night, Nashville holding off Atlanta. And then El Trafico, as you can see, LAFC taking the belt to that arse of their hated rivals up in Carson, the Galaxy, 3-0. Denny B and Sonny both getting on the score sheet last night, and Hugo Lloris with the clean sheet. All good there. Yeah, that's still lapping about the world. Thanks, world. We'll take it from here. Okay, Mr. Garber. It's gotten off to a little awkward start, but nonetheless, you can always adjust, adapt, and correct on the fly. You have a window. Get your product out there, because we do not need any more WNBA inundation and MLB. Well, we'll get to all that as we move through this podcast. This is a great window for you, Mr. Garber, to make something happen. Okay, what else do we have? So I don't know what to believe. I'm hearing it from reputable sources, and then seeing PSG INT, one of the notable content creators I follow as far as soccer content is concerned. He's talking about it like it's legit. Apparently, in the clubhouse with the French national team, Mr. Olise spoke and says, yeah, I want a boogie from Bayern, and I do want to go to Los Blancos, Real Madrid, play with Kylian and Vinny and the whole crew, even if it's going to possibly shatter the highest transfer fee ever. But hey, they got Mbappe on a free, so. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Business is open now that a lot of these teams are returning to get their vacation and start, training in physio for the upcoming campaigns. I mean, we're already mid-July, yo, so it's going to be on like DMFK before you know it. Okay. Mr. Lewandowski has landed in Chicago. More fanfare there. Mr. Griezmann down in Orlando. So this is going to be a fun second half of the season if we put down our crankiness. And I know there's some people here locally who talked a lot of trash about the league coming back, but I saw them all cabbage patching when the Timbers won the other night. More of that energy and less complaining about the MLS. It is what it is. It's like, as I've said a million times, support the league, be enthusiastic about it, or do not freaking watch it. Simple as that. Nobody's saying it's a free country. You can harp all you want, but at some point, if you're going to cabbage patch after a big win, then you need to dial back some of the negativity. Just saying. How about this? The Bundesliga making big news this week. Not only did they sign a deal with Telemundo to televise 100 matches, which will be fairly accessible over the airwaves, they've also cut a deal with Fandango and USA Network. So getting away from the ESPN ecosystem and moving into this weird partnership with Fandango. And are they going to show Bundesliga games in the theaters? The cool thing is that USA Network isn't on this, so at least for me, that's good. I'll be able to, ever since I got unlimited, I guess I could watch Bundesliga, but I have bitched and moaned about how hard it is to use on a smart TV or on your tablet. But I think that's cool. I'll consider the Bundesliga jumping to USA Network a win. Don't know how this whole Fandango thing works in, but hey. Okay, that's pitch side in a nutshell. I know we're just crackling over here. When we come back, we'll do something you should probably know. We'll be back momentarily. Hey, welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Ice cold chillin' in my Minneapolis King jersey. King hasn't made a decision yet, but Laker Nation, especially those who are in intermission during his 8-year tenure, I wear this jersey for you because, yeah, the Emancipation Proclamation happened. We'll get to that. Meanwhile, let's do one of our favorite segments of the Foxtrotting and the Foxhole podcast. Like and subscribe to FTIN FX Media's channel, YouTube channel, if you could. We really need the help there. Tell your friends to as well. Really helping a brother out there if you do. Anyways, one of our favorite segments of the podcast, and thank all of you folks who have recently joined the Foxhole experience. Something you should probably know, or things that happened this past week in the world of sports you might want to know, or possibly even care about. But there's a lot going on here too. See, it's fun this week. I've been out of sync, with the World Cup, the weather, get kind of heating up, and so of course back in this part of the Eagle's nest, air conditioning doesn't quite reach. You have to be in the main part of the house to take advantage of that. So getting content out in the regular interval as I've done in the past and going the video, it's been a little bit more difficult. And I appreciate you folks for putting up with that. But yes, let's talk about the open here as we do something you should probably know or things that you possibly want to care about. Yeah, we're all over the place, aren't we? It's been a heck of a tournament so far. Obviously, we're not at the 54-hole mark yet, but we will be there because what are we, like 8 hours ahead? So what is it, like 7, 8 o'clock over there? A lot going on here, man. I mean, had a couple of guys drop 62s. A kid dropped 62 today, which is only one off of the lowest round carded in major championships, period. You had Bryson making a run yesterday, but being assessed a 2-stroke penalty. And I was like doing a lot of stuff yesterday. So I had the sound down. I'm like watching it on, I've got 2 or 3 monitors up. And I'm thinking, why are we showing something different? Why do we keep going to Bryson? And why are they talking? And why is he so animated? He ends up, instead of being -7, gets bumped back to -5. And he's been like up and down today. As soon as the telecast comes back on, I'll update the scores, give you a timestamp. Man. I mean, how about this kid, Lucas Herbert? He almost shot a 61, which would have been low, an all-time low score. But he obviously bogeyed 18. A lot of folks leaving strokes on the course. It is a major championship, and this is what happens when you're on the big stage of golf. Yeah. So, crazy stuff going on there. Lost in all this. Tom Kim won the Scottish. Well, the Scottish Open closed with like a 64. Guys posting some scores today. A lot of folks just killing the course right now. Let's see, what else do we have? Before I leave the open talk. Speaking of, Bryson's little dust up, I guess Rory has some choice words. We'll dig into that probably on Aftershocks. As you know, those two don't like each other. Content before everything moment. Props to Zach Johnson. Can you believe Zach Johnson is already on the senior tour? He gets his first win on that circuit last weekend, so thumbs up there. Okay. And how about this? We'll go jump the track and field, bump it up. The record in the mile, El Garouge, who he held it for 27 years. I can't believe it's been that long. This kid from the UK as well. His name, Josh Kerr, 342.66. Shattering El Garouge's 27-year-old standard in the mile. I'm telling you, man, I don't know what's going on. We're producing some incredible athletes, or, well, And to that effect, top German sprinter, what's his name? Owen, is it Ansah? First German to go sub 10 in the 100 meters. He's going to be on the shelf for a while. Why? Doping, performance enhancing. Yeah. So, the fact that people still are getting popped from sprinters to archers, sorry, there's going to be a certain level of cynicism that I'm going to have when it comes to this. But 27 years, man, that's pretty impressive. Okay. Oh, one more, an ode to my man, Mr. Big. Obviously, Wimbledon wrapping up the third major of the tennis campaign. Classic there. But the interesting thing about it is, okay, now, you can't believe everything when it comes to these ratings numbers. But I find it really interesting, the Alcaraz effect of the men. With Alcaraz and Sinner not being in the final, and still, Sinner, the numbers are down for the men. However, the women who had two, what was it, like 9 and 10? Not necessarily Coco Golf, Sabalenka material, set records for viewership. Make that one make sense. Okay, let's go to the track. What did we have last week? The Tin Tops were down in Hotlanta. Fish was down in Georgia too. We'll get to that. Let me tell you. But the Tin Tops NASCAR, and give it up to Ryan Blaney, which apparently was an incredible finish where they were 3 wide heading into the checkered. Props to Ryan Blaney saying, yeah, give me that big bag of cash. Oh yeah, let's talk a little F1. So it's more about what didn't happen this week than did. One, is he staying or going? And don't you find it interesting that Mad Max, one, isn't sure how long he wants to race, won't commit to Red Bull beyond this year? What is going on with this guy? I mean, I didn't think I knew he was a little high maintenance or a little high strung, but wow, talk about being the 2-ball B. Come on, man. But hey, if he wants to milk it for all it's worth, you do you. Then you've got Lando Norris. Yeah, that Lando Norris. Complaining about the paparazzi being too intrusive in his life. Bro, you're the reigning champ. It is one of the big sports of the world. And paparazzi is even more ridiculous in your realm than it is in ours. Did you think they were just going to let you skip it to my Lou? Zippity doo dah, zippity yay through life without getting their content? Especially if you're hanging with the mates, or if you're hanging with a special someone, they want to know, and they're gonna plaster it and probably come up with some stuff that is so remotely close to the truth. Content before everything, right, folks? Come on, Lando. Really? You're complaining about the paparazzi? Okay. Yeah, we'll leave you with this one. This whole UFC thing. I mean, Connor, for one, getting tapped out early. Sophie Cunningham stealing the show. A lot to unpack here. Let's start with Connor. Boy, I coach JB. He's something else. But I have to agree with him as far as the betting angle is concerned and people wondering about how seaworthy was Connor and the Dana White. You know, is everybody in on the fix? Does Connor hang it up? It's like, we missed you, but we don't really need to see you again? Or does Connor somehow fight a way to put down the cognac and actually train and get his body to where it needs to be so he can actually be viable again? Highly unlikely. Then there's Sophie Cunningham. Because the Fever are in town, and I've got a lot to say about them as I do every week, but boy, I'm really starting to get Sophie fatigue. She's a ring girl, and all you simps out there, she's blonde, but she ain't that hot. Stop it already with all your simping. Okay? The more I look at her, the more mid she really is. But you're like, oh no, she knows jujitsu, and she was a ring girl. And I love all the other hotties out there pushing back, like going, I could be out there building my brand and really getting some traction. It's all too much. And then, of course, Sophie gets a shoe. And I give Dan Dakich credit. I usually don't agree with him, but I'm like, what is she doing with the shoe? Getting her own shoe. Oh, I know, because you simps out there are like, oh, I love me some Sophie. I love me some Caitlin Clark. As the song says, it's all too much, really. But yeah, the whole betting angle, there's just so much that is wrong with UFC. And I guess the idea that we could turn the clock back and have Ronda Rousey or Conor kind of revive mixed martial arts. Try again. Come on, Dana. You gotta do better than this. All right, folks. We're tearing the turf up here. When we come back, we're gonna rock it with some Nightfall of Diamonds. We'll see you shortly. Okay, welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Ice cold chillin'. Wearing a King jersey. Well, I got the Kings t-shirt. LA Kings, that is, underneath. But then I got the Kang, who be stay of the Kang. Yeah. Okay, let's do our Nightfall of Diamonds. As you know, customary before we talk baseball, we hop on the hippie bus and we let the Dark Star crash, mirror shatters. We're riding the bus. A lot to talk about this week on the hippie bus. As I told you on Aftershocks 53, we went to the country fair and, well, yeah, we saw the Bob Weir tribute. And I'm going to try to be nice as I was the other day and say, if you can't say anything nice, then don't say anything at all. It may not be that bad, but it was close to it, for me at least. And luckily for me, other people that I know feel the same way. Okay, once again, I don't want to anger white peeps who might be tuning in, who know my allegiances in the past. And I'll just say, yeah, the proof is in the details. Doesn't matter, because why I feel so vindicated. Oh my days. Have you seen Fish on this tour that they are currently undertaking? They are slaying it. This may be the best tour since the Baker's Dozen. What was that, like 17? I think this is better even. I mean, they're jamming everything out. And I've been thirsting for some jams for a while. And Trey's like saying, we own it. Man, if you like Fish, you need to be checking these shows out. And if you're a hater that can't go there, well, I can't help you. You're missing out. Fish is definitely bringing it, and it makes me happy. Makes everybody in that loop happy. And I am so envious of you folks who are taking these shows in person. To me, going to shows on that scale is a real royal pain in the tutu at this point. However, if shows are gonna be incinerated like this, yeah, I might want to get off my rear and go shake a bone or two. Yeah, and then we now know what the Grateful Dead's yearly release is going to be, and what a treat this is, that we're going to relive the summer of '85. Right? As people my age, I think I said this the other day, this is when I kind of saw my first show. This is a pivotal moment for us in terms of, in the Dead itself, in terms of, the last wave of folks that pretty much helped spear the whole jam bands genre, right? These are people who hopped on the bus right about this time. So, yeah, cool stuff there. Looking forward to that. Especially as I said the other day, I think on my Facebook page, about finally getting the Crispies and not all the weird Dan Healy stuff. If it's clean and pristine, this is going to be a lot of fun. So looking forward to this 85 box set dropping. All right. Is there anything else? The jam world. Billy Strings is doing Billy Strings kind of things. A lot of green sky bluegrass. Apparently that festival was cool as well. Umps without moving on without Jake, still trying to process that. Biscuits fans still cranky about Allen and not wanting to embrace Marlin. Water's wet, roses are red. Move on, people, and enjoy the grooves. Or like I said about folks in the MLS, if it bothers you that much, find another hobby. Okay, we'll park the bus there with our 8-track, 7-sided Hallelujah hat track kind of mindset, playing in the band, Veneta 72. Okay, real baseball talk now. This is very, 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 very disturbing. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. ESPN and Netflix, supposedly, according to Awful announcing, about to enter a bidding war for the rights to the World Series. ESPN I can live with. Netflix having the rights to the World Series. Oh, we grab not only the pitchforks and the torches, we go to the nuclear armory and we go get the warheads to keep Netflix from getting the World Series. I mean, it's bad enough what they did with opening night. It's bad enough, apparently, what they did with the home run derby, which no way I was watching with that L. Duncan. Can you imagine L. Duncan being the face of the World Series? Color me bad. Color me pukey. Color me pooey. Oh, jeez. No. The powers that be cannot let that friggin' happen. I mean, the fact that the home run derby on Netflix, I think, was the lowest rated home run derby. Now, you can only take what you want, but the fact that even cooking the numbers, it was the lowest rated home run derby in, I think, 20 years. Put that in take your dispo weed, put that in your glass, goddess, and smoke it all afternoon long with that nonsense. Man. The flip side of it is the All-Star game itself. I thought it was rather drab. There were folks like Clay Travis. He was, now that his show is rebranded that he does on FS1, that's now, instead of the Outkick show, it's the Clay Travis show. He loved it. Thought it was all great. Everything baseball is doing is good. I had a lot to say about it the other day. I don't want to necessarily rehash that there. But the ratings, they say they were the highest since 18 for a game that was very boring, in my opinion. People tuned in. Of course, I think it's more of you had a strong lead-in from the World Cup. Everybody kind of feeling good from watching the World Cup, playing hooky. Why not watch the All-Star game? And I'm going to say the uptick in the numbers is more, you can attribute it to that. Because hell, Sunday Night Baseball, for example, this Fever Aces game that drew all kinds of comments from the peanut galleries, drew higher than any Sunday Night Baseball telecast this season. So that's where I'm like looking at baseball going, okay. You know what I think about the most unlikable characters in the most unlikable league on the planet. And they put in better numbers. So I don't know how much I can take in this all-star bump. I guess I'm with Buster Olney. Buster Olney basically says this product is in trouble. He's talking about the All-Star game and that it is in serious need of a fix. He said the home run derby, the All-Star game, and just the connection it used to have with the fan base is not there. And it's something that Commissioner Manfred needs to address. Buster Olney, he's got his takes, but for him to agree with me, I was just like going, okay. Forget what the Clay Travises and the Colin Cowards say. I gotta listen to what Buster says. And if Buster says the All-Star game, like every other All-Star game that's pretty much on life support, is like either fix it or just do away with this nonsense and just make it just a break where these guys can go hang out with their wags, their kids and have some fun. And we have to find something else to do. Man. Okay. So apparently, baseball season is going to start 3/24/27 if we don't go on strike. Let's keep that in mind. So, week after St. Patty's Day, if we're not on strike. If we are on strike, it's going to be a long one. Buster Posey. Yeah, that Buster Posey. Finally meeting with the Bay Area media. San Francisco, to be more specific. Basically saying, yeah, we're a dumpster fire. I think it's good for him to get out in front of this. The Bay Area media, which I grew up with, is very peculiar. It's not necessarily as mean as what you might see in the East Coast. But, LA and San Francisco medias, but they don't get the props they deserve in terms of the coverage and the kind of scrutiny. And I know there's a lot of folks as far as Bay Area media who are not liking what's coming from the Giants. I mean, the whole pride thing and how that was botched by the Giants and MLB. The team actually stinking. This guy you pull from the college ranks getting his sea legs. And Buster kind of hiding behind the curtain was not a good optic. So him coming out and taking the slings and arrows, I like that. It's new for him, so I'm giving him a pass for now. Especially that he finally came out and took a little cheese and cheddar and salami from the press. Okay, wow. What else do we got? We've been talking about these streaming platforms and how they're just like continually nickeling and diming us to death. Well, apparently the Texas Rangers, no strangers to controversy like the Giants when it comes to Pride Month, but this controversy is more about them changing to a streaming platform mid-season from what consumers were getting. And apparently this streaming platform is so chitty. It's so bad, people are like saying, nah, man, just give me my money back and I'll figure out a way to either listen to it on the radio or watch the virtual game cast. And your platform must be bad when folks are just like, nah, I don't want to deal with this poo. Oh, man. Okay. Boy, how do I approach this one? Do you see that whole thing with the Portland Pickles or whatever? Yeah, this is the Portland Pickles minor league team. It being Portland, and this is not all on Portland, but being progressive, and when we come to being all inclusive, and there was this scene where guys pretended like they were gonna be into a fight and charging them out. Instead, he does a scissor and starts kissing the guy, and people are. I don't get the point of it, and it's not me hating on any particular agenda. It's just like, are we really stooping to this? Whether it was hetero, the alphabets, whatever the case, it's just like, do we really need to go this low as far as the theatrics and stupidity goes? Like I was saying earlier about bananas fatigue, there's a certain element of entertainment that we're trying to interject in sports. I was just thinking about when we saw the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders off to the side of the World Cup game, like going, do we really need that here? Do we need this? Do we really need to completely push the envelope when it comes to entertaining ourselves? I digress. Oh, man. I tried to watch this, this softball, this professional softball league that they're trying to push on us. Watched the ESPN. Watched a couple of games this week to sort of see if there was any allure. Well, based on the 2 games I watched, you guys are trying, and I'm glad you got somebody writing checks and people are getting opportunities. Or getting some work out of it, but the product itself, kind of looking around, Yeah. Okay, let's take a quick ride on the Zamboni so we can do our thing around the ice rink of life. Just to say, interesting news out of the Motor City. Legend Stevie Y, ZBZ. Stevie Yzerman out as GM for the Red Wings. Wow. But then again, when was the last time the Red Wings were relevant, Ken? Not any time lately. So obviously a big change there. Okay, folks. When we come back, we will get to the hardwood, talk some NBA. See you momentarily. A little technical snafu. Coming right back at you. All right, folks. Yeah, it's getting warm up here, so I was trying to get this thing done quickly before we started having some issues with the equipment overheating and things like that. No biggie, you won't notice it. Maybe a slight delay as far as the pause for you folks on the audio, but hey, we're back up. Alrighty. So, because we already went to the Eugene airport with the homies and the homettes, I won't call them back in the action. Instead, we'll just take the Potenza up, fly it around Otson, and we'll call it good for the 43K view for this week. Because this is technical issues. Yeah. Burns is leading at the 54 hole mark, minus 10. Bryson, I believe, is at minus 7. Yeah, gonna be a fun Sunday ahead. All right, let's regroup here. Now that we're high above campus and the drones are at their cruising altitude, let's take the high view above campus. What's going on this week? Well, I brought this up in Aftershocks 53. And ESPN's, is it Bill Connerly? He wrote a piece kind of saying the same thing, that the World Cup, its current expansion with this iteration and what they plan to do possibly in the 2030 edition, is sort of prepping the ground and sort of, I don't know, perhaps a roadmap for the powers that be and the college football ecosystem to solve their conundrum as far as what to do with the CFP. I know, crazy, isn't it? Because I do feel, and I've said this all along, going back to when this podcast started 6 years ago, that we really wouldn't get a new normal until certain things were in place. One would be guardrails governing the situation, which includes all kinds of antitrust protections to keep mofos from wanting to play forever, filing lawsuits for anything their ambulance chasing lawyers can come up with, and a stable number for the CFP that isn't going to get changed every 5 minutes. Now, if all those things can happen, then the new frontier we can truly arrive at. We're not quite there yet, and I'm guessing we won't get there until 2032 or 2033. It probably will happen. But wow, it'd be nice if it could happen sooner than that. But I don't see it happening in whatever. That's like 6 or 7 years away. I'm starting to think it may take that long for this thing to clearly sort itself out. Because just this past week, you have more athletes who are filing lawsuits. Well, I don't like the current eligibility rules you're trying to impose. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to me because it's all about me and that bag of cash I want to get and all the opportunities to be the big person. This is why the grown-ups. Hi, Congress, get in the room. In fact, Dabo wants Congress to get involved. He started the tampering, the rampant tampering, as he says, in terms of the transfer portal and being able to maintain your assets, because that's pretty much what they are at this point. He wants Congress to get involved. Gee. Are you sure? The same Congress that had 11 members, Republicans, you know I don't care, Republicans or Democrats, but wanted to get involved in the whole Caitlin Clark thing, which I'll speak to in a closer look here in the next segment. Okay, Dabo. Somebody needs to step it up. I mentioned the whole thing with Michigan the other day, which is the bigger dumpster fire, Michigan and Michigan State. All the stuff that's coming out. This whole thing with their AD. And, you've got these schools in the Big Ten, which is supposed to be the benchmark as we move towards the 2030s as the best conference. And you've got some really steaming piles of poo. Michigan State. I mean, so funny, right? When you're looking at, wow, and SC is not the one that's bringing the rubbish to the table. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting school year as far as that conference is concerned. The Big 12, same thing. All these stories away from the field. All this drama. Content before everything. You got Dan Dakich, again, that Dan Dakich calling the Wolverines the most corrupt program in America. I'm just like, come on. Content before everything. You just did that to have an incendiary take. You know that's not true because they're all corrupt. Anybody participating in this current iteration, their hands are dirty if you're trying to win. Judd Fish up there at UW talking about all the rigmaroles they had to go through just to retain, Desmond Williams, their QB. It's no wonder Dusty May just said, FT, I'm out of here, man. Let me deal with the NBA. I don't want to deal with this nonsense. Why so many big names are no longer on the sidelines anymore? I don't know how, I don't know if there's enough Rolaids and Tums for these guys in terms of the kind of stomach-turning things they deal with on a daily basis. Yeah. I think it's pretty funny, though. News this week that Coach Signetti is not happy. Because you're the ESPYs, we mentioned them earlier. They named the Knicks their team of the year. He's like, there hasn't been a team in 140 years to go 16-0, and we don't get the team of the year. Well, Coach Sig, you have got that Michael Jordan type of slight to see if your Hoosiers can do the unthinkable, because you got slighted in the ESPYs. So that's what it takes for you to feel, hey, knock your socks off, okay? Wow. You imagine being pissed about not being named the team of the year by the ESPYs? 2026, keep giving. Then we've got Dollar Bill. Yeah, that Bill Belichick. Coming up with a take that was so offensive to some folks. It's not offensive. He just said, hey, we're in a better spot right now than we were a year ago. Well, gee whiz. Just having an attitude that we can win is going to be better off than what you were last year. So I don't know what you're saying, but I forget who it was who said, man, after that comment, he should just resign. He's embarrassing himself. But Miss Jordan wouldn't have a chance to walk around in the fringe skirt if he walked away right now. She wouldn't get any flowers. Then you got James Franklin, James Franklin, formerly of Penn State, now at Vodtech, basically saying after we won the offseason, get ready for the Hokies to have a breakout season. Well, gee, of course he's going to say that. As we like to say, proof is always in the details, Mr. Franklin. Hope you're right. But then again, you're going to get some runway before people start looking at you like, are you sure we made the right move there? But I think he's going to do well in this capacity, away from all the weirdness that the Big Ten, as we've just mentioned with Michigan and Michigan State, even Penn State, we allowed to go a little bit back with Joe Pa and Sandusky. Maybe Dan Dakish is onto something there. Man. Then you have, and I don't know the extent of this. I got wind of this via Coach JB, Big Smitty, and they had their panel, and they were talking about this kid from Western Kentucky. I think his name is Victory Vaca. That they let him go because he did not attend workouts because I guess his mom died and he was dealing with the funeral and the estate and whatever the case may be. Like I said, I don't have all the details, so I want to be careful not to jump to conclusions when I don't have all the facts. But it seems pretty crappy if you let go of this kid. He's dealing with losing his mama. Somebody who just lost my mom a year ago. And I'm much younger. I mean, he's much younger. I hope that there's more to it. It may be that this kid is a pain in the butt in Western Kentucky. I think they're going to set the world completely on fire. The college football landscape just got tired of him. I sure hope so, but it's not really good optic. That's the one thing we can say. Yeah. Wow. And the thing is, he can't enter the portal because of the way this all went down. So he's kind of in this limbo. Hey, call Jeffrey Kessler. He'll find the pathway to get you back on the field. Or one of his colleagues in the legal profession. All right, folks. That's what's going on. We're going to land the drones, land the plane, as they say. When we come back, we'll do a closer look and, do that thing. We'll see you momentarily. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Faithful host Kid Harlan here. Season 11, Episode 3, Episode 323. Overall, for those of you keeping score of such things. I know, we're just cranking through. We're almost 3/4 of the way with Aftershock Season 2. We've got Season 11 here off and running. The scene, getting ready to put some new content there. SJ gets down. We're getting ready to finally do something there, I promise. Or she promises. She's a busy girl. Anyway, let's do a little opinionating, editorializing, talking a little trash. You know that thing we do, a closer look. All right, let's go straight to it here. Now, the Queen had 45 last night. First WNBA player to go 45-10. I ain't that impressed because it's against Seattle. I know Seattle's getting better, but come on. The Fever can ball out. I mean, I know the simps and content before everything hoes that feed off of this woman. They have been in a state of ecstasy for the last 12 to 20 hours. This we know. The problem I do have, though, is I've heard these folks they were on Fearless, some of them, and it was some of the most disgusting stuff I've heard over a 2-day span. Basically, they'd rather see this woman hit logo threes than her win a championship. Well, what did somebody say? Well, winning a championship doesn't really matter. They just want to watch Caitlyn, do her thing and be the face of the league. She doesn't have to win championships. What world are we living in when we don't have to win championships, where we're moving the goalposts to that extent? What are we doing? What are we doing? When I heard that, and you wonder why these angry black and white lesbians, as the content creators, are always peeing all over. That's why they're angry, because they got fools like you who say stuff like this and fans that like this. Now, this whole thing, and I brought it up earlier with Chelsea Gray and the whole racist thing, and I'm going to try to get SJ on the next Aftershocks to get a woman's perspective. If, she can do a little bit of, give us a little insight on this. Made that argument earlier, so I'm not going to rehash it here, at least not right now. It's more in the context of, wow. You wonder why these people, playing the victim, mind you, but there is some truth to it. And there is frustration because of all this focus. I mentioned Sophie getting a shoe earlier. Can you imagine if you're some of these other ballers and the only reason this chick is getting flowers because she's blonde and stuck her finger out? What you would think when you've been busting your ass off for I don't know how long, and you can't believe these folks were saying, oh, because you care about Caitlyn and Sophie, but you never cared about anybody else. Of course they don't want that kind of energy. And no matter what you think of their identity, their politics, I would feel cranky too if all the emphasis is on two particular players. And I said this from day one when it came to Caitlyn. And I don't hate Caitlyn. I feel sorry for Caitlyn. It took me a long time to actually feel for her. I'm glad that after that horrible game she had against the Valkyries, one of her worst this season, she had a game for the ages last night. Good for her. Good for her fans. Shit. Technical difficulties. One more example that the struggle is real. All right then, welcome back. Little technical snafu here. And a lot's happened here, obviously. A little change of the costume. Hours later, was out at watch parties that didn't exist. We had SJ. SJ gets down in the Foxhole. We made some content. That's going to be out there the next day or so. She's going to be on the next Aftershocks. Dropped a few hints of what's to come as far as our collaborations are concerned. But let me get back to what I was saying when it comes to this whole thing. And we actually kind of addressed this, kind of asked her from a different perspective when it comes to Caitlyn and Sophie versus the world. That world, not the world. They ain't that important. Although you'd probably think from the cultists they are. Yeah, I don't know. It was fun talking to somebody that's not a woman who's not following it closely. But I think a lot of these attacks are kind of sexist and sort of pandering to the lowest common denominator. It was kind of good to have SJ chime in, so you have to wait for the next Aftershocks for that. But back to the whole point of the psychotic stuff that's going on here. Yeah, I mean, as we've said all along, we totally get it. But it's just like really disturbing because there's a lot of things involved in this where there's a lot of wrongs and rights that can both be true and wrong. We've been talking about it ever since the Ivory Queen came into the league. And now she's got Ballin' Barbie, her assassin, next to her. I mean, right, Sophie knows what she's doing. I think Caitlyn, I'm not so sure. Caitlyn just wants the ball, and I agree with those folks. But it's so disturbing when I've seen people say, we just want to see her do her thing like she did last night, going 45-10. That we'd rather see her be the Caitlin Clark show than her actually winning championships and the standard that we hold everybody else to. Somehow we've moved the goalpost for this woman who does not want this and wants to actually earn her place in this league. And you aren't having any of it. And I think it's one of the more disturbing stories. You folks who think she's on the same level as some of the ballers we saw in an incredible third place game between England and France. It was 6-4. She ain't on that level. And you all want her to be that way. And I don't understand it. Anyways, I can beat this stuff to no end. But the fact that I will mention, wow, that England and France match, some people are thinking it's the best match of the tournament. Others saying, gee whiz, how different is this from the All-Star game where you're really not defending and you're just trying to make this a showcase for yourselves. It was cool. Both sides who were very worthy contenders to steal the cup away from Argentina, put on a wonderful show. And it's just one more affirming why this has been such a special time in the sports world and it being in the Americas. And it should probably be in the Americas every decade as opposed to every 3. I think we all know that now. Okay, what else do we have here real quick? It's been such an interesting day with a lot of stuff happening when it comes to a closer look. And obviously, having to go through some technical difficulties. It goes really warm here today, and when we're sitting back in Studio B, it gets a little bit warm, and the equipment doesn't like to cooperate. Yada, yada, yada. As we always say, we're under construction, still trying to figure this stuff out. All right, folks. When we come back, we will close you out with the NFL report and some TMC time. Hang around, because it's going to get a little spicy and chill like that, because we're always chilling up in here. Hey. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Sometimes it's more of the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan. True journey getting this all out late Saturday night, almost Sunday. World Cup final Sunday. This is going to be a big deal. Let's go to the NFL. Rookies reported the other day, and so we are getting ready to enter into the football ecosphere, landscape, universe, constellation, whatever adjective, whatever description you want to attach to it, where this is really going to dominate a lot of content creators, especially in the sports realm. Anyways, let's get cracking. The Seahawks selling for $9 billion, smashing the previous record set by my Commanders. 6.02 billion that the Commanders were sold for. Now the Seahawks go for $9 billion, which is $1 billion less than the Dodgers, which makes you wonder what would happen if the Giants, the Jets, the Cowboys, possibly the Bears, possibly the 49ers, or the Rams were to hit the market right now. Especially like when you're Seattle and you're in a good situation. You're the reigning champions. Lumen Field's a great place to see a stadium. Even, 2 decades in. Modern facility. This is interesting because the Commanders with the mistake out in Landover, which has become an eyesore. That's why they are building the cool RFK site. That is probably going to be one of the coolest sports venues in North America when it's done here in, 4 or 5 years. Yeah, the difference between being a dumpster fire for 30 years and being one of the hallmark franchises of the No Fun League. And that's $3 billion that quickly in terms of the valuation. Ain't no exaggeration there, yo. All right, let's move on. This kid from Arizona, what's his name? Ryan Gold. He is director of personnel. Basically, he kind of runs their draft. Getting suspended indefinitely today. For what, you might ask? Gambling! Violating the league's long-established policies. This is pretty much every professional sport, and even the colleges. Don't tell Mr. Sorsby that. It's a frigging no-no! Why do you idiots keep doing this? Why do you keep giving me a chance to give you stainless steel bowls of the smelliest varieties? Because you don't have the discipline. It's the same situation. Gambling, sex, drug. When you have the opportunity, as Blue Jay's mom says, to live right and we gonna get that back, why are you doing as General Henry, one of my heroes, basically says, why are you doing stupid shit that's going to F up your livelihood, shame your family and the people who care about you, pretty much putting them in a position where they can't defend your BS. Why? And we continue to see these things. And it comes down to discipline. Spare me with, it's an addiction, it's a sickness. I got plenty of sicknesses, vices, things that probably are keeping me from being the rock star that I truly am. But if I had an opportunity like these fools, having the dream job of a lifetime, I sure the hell wouldn't be putting my livelihood on the line for something I can wait till I'm kicking back in the Winnebago outside of Sedona, hanging with my girl, having all kinds of fun. If I had a girl. Oh dear. I don't know, man. It just irks me to no end. Anyways, let's move on from that. Chucky in the news. Obviously, his pending lawsuit, like Mr. Flores, that's going to be news. But he wants to get back in the booth. But he doesn't want to be a color guy. He wants to be a play-by-play analyst. It's like, I do know more than you, and I can bring so much to the table instead of these milquetoasts who basically get to do the play-by-play while the ex-player or coach does the color analyst. He's like, no, we can take this thing next level, and I'm not bidding against Chucky in that regard. Can't wait for this lawsuit to actually take center stage. This is going to be really interesting. I mentioned on Aftershocks 53 the whole nonsense about LJ and the popularity contest and the artificial drama that is created this time of year when we start focusing on whether it's the NFL or ESPN's top 100 or what your Madden rating is. I mean, what did Miss Wallace, yeah, not Marcellus, but Miss Wallace's wife say, boy, when you hens get in your circles, you can create a lot of mayhem. Not exactly what she said, but you see the movie, you get the gist of it. And it's true. The peanut galleries, give them a moment, the players in their own little circle, in their own little popularity contest, why you take these things with a true grain of salt. Break out the electron microscope to see all the granularity. Yeah. I mean, this is this rankings game and the artificial drama that it creates. Content for everything. It's going to be an ongoing theme all summer because this is exactly where we're at. Am I lying about that? No, I'm not. Yeah, I know, right? Okay, let's lighten it up here. Or not. Thomas Edward Brady. When Brady speaks, says Montana, some of the other greats don't speak enough. Thomas Edward Brady speaks, we tend to listen. And I thought it was kind of profound, him coming up this past week and talking about the loss of the Giants, the first one, when they could have been 19-0, and he said is easily the biggest L of his career, one he'll never get over. I totally empathize with you, Tommy, TB12, which I normally don't do. The only reason I empathize with you is this. Can you imagine as a football fan, and I am a hardcore NFL junkie going back to the late 60s with my Washington Redskins, and saw firsthand the 72 Dolphins beat my beloved Redskins. Can you imagine how obnoxious it would be if the Patriots had been 19-0 and they were the team? It's one thing to see the surviving Dolphins every year bust out the bubbly. There's only a few of them left. But I'd rather see that than, good grief, all those obnoxious Patriots. Good job, Eli, Michael Strahan, all the G-men. And this is coming from a Redskins / Commanders fan who hate the Giants. But they did the football world a solid. And the fact that TB12 is saying it's the biggest L of his career. Way to go, Eli. Speaking of the Patriots, their assistant coach, I think this guy's name was Thomas Brown. He opened up a whole interesting can of worms this past week now, didn't he? I mean, nobody's going to sit here and not say when you have a coaching carousel and no people or no coaches of color are hired, it makes you take a pause. But you know me, I'm not working the race-baiting, hustling, victimization angle that others are. I'm more looking at it from a real brass tacks point of view. And one of those things is the Brian Flores lawsuit is so hanging over everything like a black cloud that's about to dump 8 inches of rain in a place like Vegas that can't handle it in like 30 minutes. It really is. And you have to look around the league because, if you got chops like Mr. Ryan's in Houston, this is why the Rooney Rule has been so useless. You can say I'm cooning or tap dancing for the man. Say whatever you want when it comes to racial narratives. We keep it real up in the Foxhole. And trust me, it's about winning. Yeah, you want somebody who's like you who you can go golf and fish with, but in terms of being successful in entertainment that truly generates revenue, streams, livelihoods for people, come on now. Stop this whole idea of, wow, gee, there's nobody here qualified. I've told you why, over the years, if you follow this podcast, the pathway to getting a more diversified pool. But the thing is, you got to be able to coach. You got to be able to win the hearts and minds battle. You have to be a true leader of men. And I don't care what color you are, green, purple, black, white, whatever the case may be. If you've got it, and teams will recognize that. If you don't, you will end up like Antonio Pierce. You will end up probably where Aaron Glenn's going to be. Out of a job if the Jets stink it up again this year. Okay. Let's see here. We're sitting here chatting. Other news, Alvin Kamara restructures his deal so he can stay in the Big Easy, help out Tyler Shook and this young team, especially in the division where I see a lot of chicken and dumplings. I see chicken and dumplings, hot fries, biscuits and gravy. This is a whole feast in terms of how easy it should be to be successful. So props to Alvin. They're saying, I don't need to go anywhere. We might be able to make it happen here. Right? The final exam in that division. Oh, we got this. Wow. Unfortunately for Chris Johnson, we talked about this. And this is the kind of things that just always make me feel so uneasy. You know, obviously he was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease. Our prayers, thoughts, and hopes are with his people and anybody who's helping him go through this journey. But here, you know, Miss Sister Adams, the owner of the Titans, but she announced this week, oh, we're going to put him in the Ring of Fame. Probably should have been there. You know, obviously you had Derrick Henry, but he was the prolific back before that. And you hate to see a tragic circumstance like this. Now we're going to put him in the Ring of Honor when he should have been there anyway. But the main takeaway here is that he gets the care and lives longer than the expected outcome. Like the guy, speaking of New Orleans, Mr. Gleason, same story. In terms of, hey, this isn't a death sentence. It doesn't have to be a death sentence. What's up with with the World Cup going on and all these teams, what do they call it? The football by football jersey. Stay in your lane, please. Stay in your frigging lane. Hideous stuff. No need. No beautiful game life fans going to wear this. No NFL fans going to wear this. Talk about something you're going to be giving away in Indonesia or other places across the globe that are not NFL affected where they can just drop off boxcar loads of really bad concepts that should never, ever see the light of day. That's how I feel about this NFL trying to emulate football proper with gear that just is straight up freaking hideous. Oh my gosh. Oh, we're so happy to get SJ of SJ Gets Down podcast. Can't wait to hopefully insert some of that if it came out well in the next Aftershocks. And she's giving it a drop of episode as well. Very, very cool stuff there. Where am I going with this? Point being is, I can enjoy making content with her and all the social media actions that go along with it. But when it comes to like these soccer jerseys, or I don't stop, you're trying too hard. Okay, lastly, before we get to TMCA time, how about this site that's on my Facebook feed where they are talking about if the NFL wants a real challenger, the UFL and CFL should merge. Talk about making your head explode. Two unwatchable products merging to make an even more unwatchable product. Make that one make sense for you. Because it's just so frigging silly. I mean, I remember when I was in Vegas in the mid-90s and the CFL tried to expand by adding American teams. We had Las Vegas. What were they? The Outlaws or something crazy like that. But they had Tamarick Vanover from Florida State. Talk about peeing your career away. But that went over so much like a flat lead balloon, which really led to the stereotypes about Vegas not being a top-tier sports town for the big three franchises. Yeah, how did that work out with the Golden Knights, Raiders, A's, Aces? A UFL CFL merger. FTIN fx@gmail.com or 541-525-0896. You tell me if you think this bull jive has not even a puncher's chance, a Hail Mary completion type of bull jive to save this concept. This is what it is. The UFL CFL. Right, it makes my head explode. I don't even know how to articulate it. All right, perfect time. Because the trucks that brought the stainless steel bowls of the smelliest varieties from the foundry. All right, it's TMCA time up in this B. You know, where we give out the stainless steel bowls of the smelliest varieties and complimentary regular and XL sizes. For what, you might ask? Well, for those whose distinctions during the week earn that distinction, or their actions earn that distinction, I mean to say. God, it's getting late and we're just fumbling all over our words. Thank you for putting up with my nonsense. Or them being who they be. And a lot of times, they be who they be. As Bunny Colvin says, thank you for being you. It is TMCA time in the Foxhole. Our homage to Season 4 of The Wire. If you know, you know, when Tommy Carcetti, that is, when he's running for mayor, and he's talking to young Tony, that great scene in the cafe, and having two of the most miserable bosses ever, that's where we get the TMCA. More of the M and C. Two of the most horrible bosses who personify every bad stereotype when it comes to certain things. But hey, we're not going there. Let's get to it, Ken. Stop rambling. Well, I mentioned Terrell Owens, as the lady also said in the wires, we don't want no clowns up here, Terrell. I know your mama. I don't know his mama, but his shameless insertion into this horrible thing going on in Mississippi, as I talked about earlier, Ben Crump in his finest hour. You inserting yourself because ain't nobody give a damn about you anytime in the last 4 or 5 years, but you found a reason to race bait and hustle like everybody else to get a little relevancy. Yeah, I'm going to give you an XL. You don't need 2, but just give you an XL. Caitlin Clark, you've been acting like an entitled trick. A lot of this is not your fault, but you don't have to act like an entitled trick to where the few people that are saying about this are finding reasons to see you in a very disdainful light. Okay. Since we're talking a national team, regulars all across the board, 2 XLs for the Hall of Shame for the French national team, being a bunch of 2-ball Bs and not fixing the media after they lost in their semifinal game to Spain. If you'd won, Killian would have hooked up with James and maybe playing the flute and you'd all be cabbage patching. But you didn't. You got bounced when you were a pretty heavy favorite and you can't meet with the media. It's like you would have been cabbage patching and given all kinds of accents that you won, you lose, you act like a bunch of 2-ball Bs. Wow. Okay. We're going to give a 5 strip to the Hall of Shame and complimentaries all around. Where do I start? You got English and Argentine fans saying, well, UFC 327 was a bust. Hold my keg and delivery truck. We'll show you, as they say. You want crazy, I'll show you crazy. Giants fans, not a lot going on there. So we talked about Buster Posey meeting with the Bay Area media. Oh man, you see their fans illing. A lot of them from the San Joaquin Valley. Not the 209, but the 559. And you're like, wow, seriously? You show up to a World Cup match or MLB game and you think you can be Connor or Ronda Rousey or Misha Tate. Jeez. I know, because there's so many women are in these brawls that are going viral. You see the clown show where the fools took over In and Out, bringing that bad energy. What are we doing here, people, in terms of condoning this? But that's right, because you can't take the BTA to instill some discipline, they all get to run buck wild. Yeah. You're probably getting In and Out. Flip side of that is the clown in Tennessee. He has a pasta pizza restaurant. What is it? Timboli's Pasta and Pizza. He doesn't want to serve the National Guard who've come into his restaurant because he's so triggered. FOH with that kind of nonsense. You're disloyal, you know what? And that kind of stuff makes me want to puke. You got Andy Cohen. Dead Andy Cohen. You know, the major domo at Bravo. The warlord when it comes to the Real Housewives franchise, as many as they are. Man, quit being so thin-skinned. You've blocked Maureen of the Nerve and Emily Jahinsky of the After Party because they do a little truth-telling and you're going to be thin-skinned. Stop being a 2-ball B, okay? Come on, man. I love that Maureen and Emily and people in that world are calling you out because you far have gotten too long for a pass. Because the truth is, when it comes to you and your deaddom, you're more a Mayerite than a Jerryite. And you know I have no room in my heart or bandwidth in my brain space for anybody who's a Mayerite, not a Jerryite. Okay? Chili dogs and Persian forever, if that's what it means. Wow. Lastly, a woman who has had a summer of summers. Oh my words. Sunny Hostin. of The View, pulling her version of Danny Rossini and being the ultimate dirtbag, trying to clout chase and say, do you know who I am? Yeah, we know who you are. And the fact that we know who you are is a reason to spend the next 2 days bedridden. Because that's a very despicable woman. All right, folks. Thanks for putting up with me. This was a real slog trying to get through. I apologize for the technical issues. We're getting closer and closer to resolving these things. Bear with us. We're only going to get better as time goes on and we learn. Keep an eye out for a new episode of The Scene. We got great content coming on this platform in the Aftershocks. And like I said, look out for the next Aftershocks. SJ, if SJ Gets Down returns, she's about to drop a new episode because she's going video too as part of this transformation that we're being a part of. Anyways, you know the drill. Stay safe. Stay sane. Enjoy some good adult beverages. Good food. Friendship with the people that matter. Avoid the bracelets at all costs, as we ain't got time for any of that bull jive. Stay sane. All those things. Keep it real. Keep it clean. Keep it tight. It's late. You can tell I'm frazzled because I'm all over the place. More content to come during the week. Peace. Enjoy the World Cup. Like I said earlier, I think Argentina is going to win 3-2 because this is a team that is going to be denied. We'll see you when you see you. Hopefully that's sooner than later. Peace.